Boom, that's right. The four Bs back once again. Bullish Bitcoin banter and bullshit brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the $1 trillion man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, Pod 127, Mrs. No Show, still, aka No Show. What's going on? Big week. Or what's it?
ETFs approved. We're at $1 million per Bitcoin. Everyone's retired. Everyone's got girlfriends. Oh, rosy, right?
That's what I expected. I expected to have the fanfare and everything. Nothing.
I,
Uh,
I think me being a bit more pessimistic, I was waiting. I was waiting for this kind of like I suppose initial marketing. So you got to consider this isn't opening doors to the people who are attracted to Bitcoin because they buy it off Coinbase and Binance and whoever else initially. This is opening the marketing door to the boomers, to the
Yeah.
people who believe Bitcoin's too risky, but they quite fancy owning some. So just think of that way. It's okay. We've secured the gate, the door, the bridge, whatever you want to call it, and now it's, well, how do you get them across?
yeah, yeah, we
So that's
discussed it, didn't we? Like,
stage two.
yeah, exactly, yeah. It's and obviously, like, I did see a tweet today. Actually, it just had a quote again from Arthur Hayes. We've mentioned him a few times, the CEO of, I think it's Bitfinex. And he just went like, anyone that really likes Bitcoin, they're not going to buy an ETF. The Bitcoin ETF has anything to do with Bitcoin, really. You buy the ETF with fiat and you sell it for fiat. Bitcoin is such an afterthought. It's kind of so much in the background, and someone else is buying the Bitcoin and supposedly backing it and all that stuff. But the people that are buying this thing, then they're not really Bitcoiners, and it's like we always said. But there is a shit ton of money there. But I think when this ETF was even rumored, we pretty much said it. It's like I fully expected once the ETF was announced and it was all here, we would get quite a big pump. I did think that would probably happen, but I think there would be a sudden realization that, oh, where's all the volume? Because there isn't a load of pent up demand really. People that have pensions and financial advisors, speak to any people that run those funds now, they are not a fan of Bitcoin. So it wasn't
Mm.
like, oh, I only invest it in Bitcoin once the ETF was live. That was never really a barrier for them. They've got a lot of work to be done. So I think it's more, we have to just let this fiat game play out. I think more and more people will put pensions that are trapped in this, to a certain age limit. Eventually people will start moving their fiat investments over that are trapped. But the majority of people that wake up and want their way away from inflation and away from fiat, they're going to take it, send it to an exchange and just buy Bitcoin and put it on a hardware wallet, right? So yeah, it's going to take time,
I
wasn't it?
think
I think the
I
IFAs,
think
pension funds will wake up. They will start to realize that Bitcoin is a very credible asset. But I don't think it's really been on the radar for ages either. So it does just take them a bit of time to go, oh, there's an ETF, let's analyze it, almost let track its performance over the first couple of years, and then maybe we make an allocation. So
but I also think it's kind of like with the boomer, it's they're not, I suppose, doing the research and waiting. They're waiting for that event. So, what events have we got coming up? We got the halving coming up. So you got, that's one which typically creates a bit of noise. You got potential where we get on more companies' balance sheets, so not just MicroStrategy. And then you've got nation states as well. So you kind of go, these are the kinds of news which we're waiting for to spark the interest in the ETF, I think. Because they're not just going to buy it because it's Bitcoin because it's died 4 times. It's tulips times by 4 or whatever it is.
hmm.
Yeah, for me,
So
I think ultimately some of them will, I thought we're going to go in because the price is where it is. So they want to get the jump on the others, hence the reason for the SEC to approve all 13 at the same time. And that's where I thought, okay, so it's a little bit of a race to get their ETF out in front of their customers. because if they're going to have to buy it on the back end, they may as well buy it at this price before it pumps higher, because essentially they're still buying the same thing.
Yeah, but no one's queuing up for Bitcoin at, what is it now, 35 grand? They'll be queuing up for it when it's 100.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I thought, and wrongly so, the funds would be at least a lot smarter than that, because the average layperson is certainly queuing up when it's 100 grand all over the news. Everybody's FOMOing, but the actual funds themselves should be like, okay, let's get it while it's cheap, and then just simply hold it.
I think our kind of like what we've seen is we have seen a pump with the preparation and have been some whale wallets going on. So I think the assumption is the funds have already put their first tranche in, but they're not going to buy multiple tranches for it until they actually see the first ones be sold. So I think they bought their stock initially, and they'll be going, okay, let's wait for people to buy this. And they're probably thinking, you know, it will take a bit to sell it. So they bought it 30 grand, 25 or whatever it is. And, you know, they'll be hoping to sell it for 100 grand, make a pretty penny. And then when they realize it's starting to run out, they buy some more, you know, because they'll be looking at the page views, they'll be looking at the people who are kind of like hesitating on the button, not buying, and they'll be calculating what we think the addressable market is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is the thing that probably a lot of people missed, really, is that this year so far, Bitcoin, well, not in 2024, but over the last 12 months, Bitcoin is up 77%. So that is quite a pump during the kind of market we're in, right? The market isn't hugely up. It's slightly up, but Bitcoin is one of the best assets you could have held over the last year. So up 77%. And typically what happens is that is all people buying the rumor, and then you sell the news. So unfortunately, once the rumored thing actually happens, it's actually a negative on the asset, whatever the stock or investment is. If it's rumored to be an ETF, people buy that rumor, and it normally goes above where that price should go. And then the news comes out that, oh yeah, you're right. But then all that happens is people then sell. It's like, oh, that's the peak right now. Everyone's got the same information. All the insiders that knew this was going to be approved, and other people were denying it. And there's plenty of people out there that go, and this ETF is never being approved. There's no chance. And we got our first, story here from Buttcoin, which is it's a very fun Reddit to peruse. They are literally they don't even, at least they don't like shitcoins. They just hate Bitcoin. They pretty much just absolutely.
I just love how these people hate it so much. They've dedicated a whole subreddit and spend part of their spare time slating Bitcoin and anyone associated with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know, if it didn't mean anything to them, they just ignore it.
Exactly.
These people are angry.
Well, what's interesting though as well is surely over time, if you were part of this subreddit, you would see that all of the posts or the FUD has been debunked.
Yeah.
So surely at some point you might think, maybe I need to get on the other side of this.
Come on, we've all felt it and seen it in person, though, right? Yeah, when someone's anti anything, right, they'll just keep moving the goalposts to make themselves right. Yeah. So apparently, what's happened on Bitcoin? So this whole story, right, is just someone put a post out saying, no, the ETF isn't going to happen. And this was recently. This is in the last couple of weeks. Someone put this post on.
3
Number
months
one.
ago, I found the original post 3
Oh,
months.
okay.
Oh, cool.
He said, number one, Gensler hates crypto scammers. He's the last person who'd ever touch anything crypto. As long as he's in office, it's not going to happen. Number two, even if he leaves, the ETF has always been refused with Bitcoin because manipulated by scammers. The SEC does not allow manipulation in the stock market. So how would they get it approval? Have you seen the stock market? Have you analyzed various stocks? You're telling me they're not manipulated? Like, come on. And Bitcoin's actually one of the hardest things to manipulate. Anyway, number three, we see Crypto Bro after another getting charged and going to jail. Let's assume the above were not true. Who'd even be left by the time it would get as far as authorities even considering approving it? Almost all the butters are under investigation or actively charged with a crime. So all I can assume here is basically going, oh, the FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried somehow bundling him in as a Bitcoiner. You go, he's not a Bitcoiner. He's a genuine casino, a criminal. He's like, mark this post, Bitcoiners. If there's an ETF in the next 5 years, I'll eat a sock.
Oh,
In the last
I
couple of
mean,
days, that post has been deleted because
yeah,
he doesn't want to eat a sock.
that was my first question: is when is the sock being eaten? And how can I watch said sock being eaten?
He's not
I'm a
eating it.
bit, I'm a bit good, yeah. Gutted. I tracked down the post. It's been deleted, and I think I read the subreddit earlier in the week, and they said that the people doing the Bitcoin said they're nice, so that people don't spam the posts. So they put out the name. Um, they've put some crude paint over the top, but yeah, I do just find it unbelievable that people would dedicate their lives just slating something. It's kind of like I think you read about the news that people buy pessimism rather than optimism.
Yeah.
It's what sells stories. And it's kind of almost the same here. Like they've become addicted to being negative about something rather
Yeah.
than just either going, I don't believe it will work because of ABC, or just ignoring it altogether. You know, are
Right.
these people who are upset because they missed it? Are they upset, or
Yeah.
are they people who were in it and sold too early?
I think we all on this pod know someone that we've told ages ago, and they're still continuing to look at the price and continuing to look at all of the activity around Bitcoin, and yet still denying that it's going to happen or what has happened is positive. So at that point, you just have to kind of think that they're never gonna make it, are they?
No, but yeah, it literally is. It is sad. It's just a group of haters, isn't it? Yeah, and
Yeah.
they've all got, for one reason or another, they've decided that Bitcoin isn't a thing, and there's 169,000 of them. But what you got to do is compare that to the Bitcoin community. We got 6.1 million
Oh, really? Wow.
Wow.
in Bitcoin now. I'm pretty sure last time I looked at that number, it was more like 3 million or something. So what it actually says here, we're top 1% ranked by size. But they are Bitcoin now. Top 1% of all the subreddits. Which the Bitcoin wasn't massive on Reddit for, well, pretty much just for as long as I remember, really. It was always a bit of a niche community there. Obviously, it isn't the main place that people and Bitcoiners talk because there's so much censorship, so much moderation. But
Yeah, Bitcoin's number 86 in all subreddits. And you have such ones as oddly satisfying, travel, Wall Street bet, internet is beautiful, Tifu, whatever that means, life pro tips. Number one is funny, number two is world news. So yeah, really interesting that it's got so high.
yeah, because a lot of them, that's just generic, like why people go on the internet, right? They go on it for a bit of a break, don't they?
Yeah.
But then, yeah, we're probably, I'd say, in the top 50 of proper topics, as opposed to just people just shit posting and wanting a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, number 55 is dad jokes.
Yeah, which is, And Jesus, 87 is soccer, or as we would call it, football. So,
Oh, wow.
Bitcoin being above football,
It's interesting.
but we're
Wow.
behind gardening.
Oh
Our
gosh.
gardening is
Wow.
85th. We're sandwiched in between gardening and football. My other two loves, Jesus.
I was
Football,
going to
Bitcoin,
say,
and gardening. There's my freaking Reddit feed pretty much there. If I hadn't been banned a million times. But
sure it isn't part of what have we got in here? Philosophy. Or whatever we've got art. R is number four. I'm guessing that's cute animals or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Um, so kind of moving on from there, we've got the next one, which is about the best ticker name. So this is VJ Boyapati, who said that they've missed out on all kinds of ticker names which they should have taken up. So his suggestion was Moon, to how should you say that? Tulip, HFSP, and Rect. So what would be both your favorite ticker signals if you could have one,
So I'll
or
share
ticker
this.
names?
I'll share the screen because the ones that have been used at the moment. So you got just
Yeah, I
GBTC.
was going to say on one of the other posts, I actually didn't recognize the acronyms. I'll just read them out a bit further down from there.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now. So
Yeah,
for there. Oh, yeah. I think for me the
it
best
was
one
on. It
here
was
by
on
far
another.
is Burr from Valkyrie.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I would.
MicroStrategy just does. We got ARC B, so ARC Bitcoin, and Grayscale Bitcoin have just done GBTC. But then the BlackRock one is this IBIT, the iShares Bitcoin Trust.
I would have liked to have seen. I think TULP would have been my favorite.
Tulip, yeah. It's one of them though, isn't it? It's almost like leaning into negativity. That's the problem. Like Moon, fine, but Tulip, that's negative. Rect is negative. Have fun staying poor. Don't
Yeah,
know.
I suppose
If you
you
buy
have.
that ETF, you're not having fun staying poor, are you? If you it's weird to name your thing. I think the best one by far is Burr. Like that's the
yeah.
one you want. There's
It
not.
was
It's
the
weird. Like
tweet underneath that one there.
yeah,
There we
you
go.
got
That's yeah. So
yeah.
Sats WGMI.
We're gonna make it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Why is there a
and
badger one?
yeah. Honey Badger,
Honey Badger.
Oh,
Freedom, Digital Gold, Orange, Pump. Was it hyperinflation? Fiat,
Yeah,
Jerome
hyperinflation.
Powell,
Jerome Powell, J Powell. I love that one
debt,
too.
money. Yeah, and fuck the Fed. Yeah, ex-Fed is that. That's good. Fuck the Fed.
Yeah,
but I feel
uh,
like you probably have got to stick to something sensible because, like I said, you're not targeting the people who do the memes. You're not targeting the people who have
Mm.
fun looking at Bitcoin. You're targeting the boomers.
I mean,
So
ultimately, this is fund management's not Paddy Power doing fund management. If it was Paddy Power, they'd be on the jokes all day, wouldn't they?
Yeah, because it's the hodl. I'm sure. I think there is a hodl in there as well. This screenshot isn't all of them. Someone got hodl as well.
HODL
Yeah,
would be a
someone
great
did get
one.
Hoddle.
But yeah, so we had hodl and Burr, and then everyone else just went pretty much
Yeah,
BTC or their business name with a B in it, which, like you said, that who are they targeting? They're targeting financial advisors and pension funds, not the plebs on Twitter. So they're not trying to be funny. And and the thing is, I don't think the ticker symbol matters really, because I think people barely even see that, but they just look for they'll search BlackRock funds and then just see them, and there'll be a Bitcoin ETF one there, and they'll just click it, and they'll barely even
it
see the
was
ticker. But
Vanek that got Hoddle.
Oh,
yeah,
But for some reason, earlier on when I was reading, and yeah, it was there, but it's not showing now. But yeah,
yeah.
Vanek.
Yeah, so I think HODL is probably
Yeah,
so it's just it's the best one, but I wouldn't say it's good for an ETF just because you're not really hodling Bitcoin. Uh,
true.
but Burr is good, or fuck the Fed. I quite like fuck the Fed.
yeah, but
'Cause
like I said, I think you're just limited. I think X-Fed people kind of go, "What the hell?"
yeah, that's why. Yeah, and you would get asked, like you would be on calls with financial investors and hedge funds that are going to go, "We're about to allocate, 500 million into your fund, but one last question: What does X-Fed mean again?" And you go, "Fuck the Fed." You go, "What?"
Yeah,
Maybe we'll go for a different ETF then, because maybe you guys
yeah, we
aren't
need them on
serious.
side, don't we? Really?
Yeah, maybe I don't want you to manage my 500 million. Like maybe you're messing about with your Bitcoin cold storage or something. So it's always the problem, isn't it? When you're on Bitcoin Twitter and you're anonymous, you can just fuck about and it's very easy to be quite loose-lipped and quite funny. But if you are running a business and you want others to trust that your business is good and they're not Bitcoiners, but they are the fiat world, unfortunately, you have to kind of play the game and you have to at least pretend to be
Yeah.
professional. which is why I think most of those names are just very professional. It's boring, but we live in fiat land, and yeah, people change once you put a suit on and put a name tag on. Anyway,
Agreed.
this is something that Giacomo, he's a legend in Bitcoin, basically he reshared it from Nicholas Doria. But essentially, nearly all the ETFs have backed their holdings of Bitcoin on Coinbase. So I think this picture just illustrates it perfectly, really, because what if Coinbase get hacked, right? Imagine if trillions really did pile into these ETFs and Coinbase have custody.
Do they store on Coinbase?
Coinbase have a company corporate level custody product. So you basically pay them. They're not holding the money on the exchange like a normal pleb. Like they're not doing that. They're paying Coinbase potentially millions a year to have a totally like self-guarded like self-custody. So I'd imagine that is all ring-fenced and almost as a different company, because if it isn't, if the main exchange goes bust, right, and the liquidators come in, let's just say they did get hacked or someone at Coinbase goes fraudulent and steals a load of the money. If Coinbase goes under, it could take all the ETFs down with it, because suddenly anyone that's put their money into an ETF, there's no Bitcoin that backs it now because Coinbase lost it.
Yeah.
So is there one little Lego brick at the bottom here? And again, it's probably another potential theory for a conspiracy to go, is this on purpose? Coinbase, we know, is pretty much co-opted by the US government right now. Do they want a load of people to put money into Coinbase and then they just orchestrate a hack where they just move the Bitcoin out to some wallets that they control and go, oh, you lost all your money. That'll teach you, won't it? That's why Bitcoin's dangerous. Even in an ETF, you lost your money. But, or it could just be pure negligence. It's a very risky game. You would have thought that each ETF would almost have been told, you need to manage the custody of the Bitcoin yourself in some degree. Like you can't all just use the same third party, right? You can't all outsource this very important part of the ETF, which is the custody of the Bitcoin. Don't all give it to the same company. They've all given it to Coinbase. It seems kind of insane and extremely risky, which obviously is another reason not to buy the ETF. Just buy
True.
Bitcoin and put it on your hardware wallet. But
the average person, however, will, I doubt, understand that or even think about that in terms of where or who the custodian is, because I'm sure Coinbase is the custodian of, I think, 8, then Gemini of 2, and then Fidelity of 1 as well. So, yeah, there's not a lot of resiliency out there, to be fair, at all.
yeah,
And Fidelity, it's through the Fidelity funds and then through their security arm as well. So that's the gamekeeper and the poacher in terms of that. So, it's lost. Is it really? So yeah, we'll see. But law of averages, something is bound to happen, and no doubt it's going to happen to the big one, and 80% of the people are going to get wrecked, and then that will cause the drop in Bitcoin, even though it's, again, as always, never anything to do with Bitcoin.
well, the good thing will be, right, if let's just say there's loads of buy pressure that comes into this Bitcoin ETF. Let's just say this hack actually happens. Let's say actually, let's just assume everything's legit. There's no big conspiracy, right? So a load of money comes into the Bitcoin ETFs. They then buy that Bitcoin through Coinbase, who then custody it for them. But then, so the buy pressure's there, right? So the price has gone up a lot. But then Coinbase lose that Bitcoin. So it gets hacked and has to get in it goes out somewhere. But there's a genuine hacker, moves it out, and obviously needs to sit on that Bitcoin for quite a while to let the heat die down. Because he potentially sold or stolen billions, if not maybe even a trillion worth
It's
of
like
Bitcoin. Right?
that guy and his rapping wife.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sat on it for a year. They moved like one sat, and bang, they got them. It's there's no real upside of stealing such large quantities of money. You always get caught trying to spend it.
Well, I was going to say it's also very traceable as well, which is one of the key benefits because everyone talks about illicit activities, money laundering, but it's so
Well,
easily
we'll come
traceable
on to
compared
that,
to
won't
fiat.
we? Yeah, we'll come on to that with our boy Gary
Yeah,
and his
GG.
comments.
but yeah, just going through that story again. So they've stolen all the Bitcoin, right? They're going to sit on it. Bizarrely now, there's no sell pressure to happen because all the Bitcoin's gone, right? So everyone can sell their Bitcoin ETF all they want. It doesn't matter because the price just automatically goes to zero. Everyone loses their money. They can send the price negative if they want. The main Bitcoin price isn't affected by the ETF. It's not pegged to the ETF. The ETF only affects Bitcoin when they're buying and selling Bitcoin. If they don't have any Bitcoin to sell, they can't sell. They can't affect the price.
This is true.
So weirdly, if the hack happened, it could actually be really bullish for Bitcoin because
Yeah,
that hacker then is sat on $1 trillion worth of Bitcoin, say, but they can't
with
touch
no
it. They
Bitcoin.
even go to move it. They know they're going to get pinched, so they're going to have to try and take little pieces off, like coin join it and try and get through and spend a little bit. But they're probably going to wait 5, 10 years before even starting. So that pretty much goes great. We have a $1 trillion holder of Bitcoin here and all these people that were potentially going to be going in and out of ETFs, like hedge funds and pension funds or whatever, or they're 100% in now and they can't sell because their ability to sell just moved and it's out of their control. So they're forced hodlers now.
Does that give the funds or effectively the Fed and the SEC more pressure to print more and therefore leading to hyperinflation to backfill the money that they will have lost because they will have put legitimate funds into Bitcoin, just playing it out?
Yeah, I doubt they would bail this one out. I'd imagine they would let this one get wrecked.
Oof. So do you think they'd let BlackRock get wrecked?
Well,
BlackRock
it's
can get
BlackRock
wrecked off
customers,
this.
isn't it? So
Well, yeah.
the majority, the loser in all these isn't the companies necessarily. It's the people
Yeah,
that
the
put their money in.
customers.
So, and I
Surely
think
there's
well,
going to be some
what
hype.
it's like because what's the upside, right? They only like bail out if the company itself is under problem. So like if the overlying bank was in trouble or BlackRock was in trouble. But this is like like if the BlackRock ETF on Bitcoin goes under, it literally means nothing to them, right? It's probably a half an hour's worth of profit gets wiped out. You're like, right, let's just wait half an hour, we've got it back. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gnat on top of an elephant, right? The Bitcoin ETF in BlackRock. So I think the upside of them bailing this out is very small, and the downside could be big because there'll be a lot of people angry, I think, if a load of Bitcoin has got bailed out with, they do it with the banks and they do it with all that and they go, oh, they're too big to fail, blah, blah, blah. But I think if a random ETF goes bust, especially a Bitcoin one, I think they'd love the negative PR on that. So I think there's a lot of upside there for them to shit on Bitcoin again, right? I think it might even be why they're purposely centralizing a lot of the money in Coinbase, right? And they might engineer a lot of funds to then just use that to hit Bitcoin over the head with to go, see, even their largest exchange can't hold Bitcoin.
Effectively, though, even though they are shitting on Bitcoin, we have to watch what they do, not what they say. And what they're doing is still buying it. So at some point, they have to jump on board and be kind of bullish about it because it's making them money at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it won't be making them much at the moment.
No, not at the moment.
Because because our next story, right, is what happened, and there was cries of manipulation because there was a lot of buys happening in these ETFs.
Yeah.
So there's roughly like over $2 billion worth of fiat went into these ETFs, largely spread around. Most of it went into the BlackRock ETF, of course, and Fidelity, and they were the main winners. But then who were the problem was there was about 2 billion of outflows from the Grayscale Bitcoin trust that had already existed, right? So GBTC was already existent. So that was basically just like some form of options trading where you bet on the price of Bitcoin going up or down, and you could set 6, 12, 3-month kind of time frames. You weren't really hodling Bitcoin, you were just betting on the price of Bitcoin. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, I think, where people were doing your arbitrage trading, where Grayscale's price of Bitcoin would be out of sync with the real price of Bitcoin. So you could buy and sell real Bitcoin and the GBTC and arbitrage the difference. But then that got traded out once the markets got efficient. But essentially what seems to have happened is Grayscale have lost 2 billion of volume, and because that people don't want to do these betting on short-term price movements. People, I think, would much rather just be able to buy an ETF and leave it for potentially for a decade. You can't do that in Grayscale. It's not kind of a product they offer. You have to keep renewing your bet really over a 6 or 12-month period. And I think the taxes are different as well. It's like a short-term investment as opposed to a long-term investment. So I think it's more tax efficient to shove your money into an ETF, especially if that's what you want to do with it, right? If you want to put your part of your pension into the price of Bitcoin, then you just shove it into an ETF. So it looks like that's the volume that happened. Essentially all the buy pressure for these ETFs came from existing people that already were using fiat and probably their pension money to track the price of Bitcoin, but they had it in Grayscale. And then the second the ETF comes live, they sell that and they buy the ETF because it's a nicer product, lower fees, longer time preference. But that was just the existing money. So almost the ETF cancelled itself out. So everyone then expecting a pump, the pump didn't happen. So instead we get a bit of a dump because that's just what retail do, right? Retail just are very reactive to anything. So it kind of explains at least that the 2 billion in volume that brought this ETF in days of the ETF going live, which when I saw these kind of numbers, I'm like, that's a lot of money going into the ETF that I didn't think was going to happen that quick. But then he suddenly went, oh, it's just Grayscale volume moving over. It's not new money. It's not 2 billion of new money that was just pent up and couldn't wait to buy. It was just the existing money that's already tracking the price of Bitcoin anyway.
So we have got all the ticker symbols here on a separate note. So it's got the HODL for Van Eck, and then it's also at bottom DeFi.
Oh, that's great.
And then the other one which I noticed was
that was the one I saw.
BitB. It makes me think of BitBoy.
BitB.
Yeah.
That's a bad one, yeah. But DeFi is horrendous, right? Originally, Bitcoin was decentralized finance, fine, but that got co-opted by the shitcoiners and all the Celsius and Fi and all the stuff that went boom, right? It's all imploded. So to call your Bitcoin ETF DeFi is
they're on last year's or the year before last year's trend, which is now no longer a trend.
Yeah. And Bitcoin has never used the term DeFi, right? That was a term we used to use the word decentralized, but we never used DeFi. It was the shitcoiners that termed DeFi and went, Bitcoin is like old tech, DeFi is new tech. They literally
someone got paid for that though. So, in the business, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've got a great idea. Let's call it DeFi for the ticker.
Well, it's back, isn't it? That's why.
But DeFi is back.
Yeah, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a story, didn't we, where it's back.
Is it? Why? I can't even remember this one.
They put a slight different angle on it, but it's the same old shitty scam.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you can make like 6% interest. It's like, great. With a risk to lose my Bitcoins for pretty much what I can get off the returns of a bond.
Yeah, as always. Right. Next up, we got Gary fucking Gensler.
G. he went. It was a funny one, wasn't it? Because actually, how long? It's 3 minutes. It's probably not a click-worthy one, is it?
Nah,
So
too long.
through this one, he talks through gritted teeth, having to follow the law, doesn't he? For quite a lot of it. So it's very, what's the correct word for it? Objective. And he talks through letter of the law, the court cases meant that things had changed, so they had to make sure they were fair, follow proper policy. And then he starts talking about it being high volatile, it's a speculative asset, being used for money laundering, evading sanctions, illicit activity. And I was like, you wouldn't talk about this about any stock, would you? You wouldn't
No.
talk about, say, I don't know, Nestle and how they gave formulated milk to mothers in Africa and basically weaned their children off, then wanted to charge them a premium. You wouldn't talk about Nestle when they went into Brazil and got all the local children addicted to their ultra processed food. You wouldn't talk about, I know, weapons manufacturers, would you, Gary Gensler? But talks about Bitcoin, which is very, quite strange, isn't it? And
Yeah,
it's
it's totally bizarre.
opinionated, and it's actually very unprofessional considering his position as a regulator or lawmaker.
Yeah.
And just to put it into perspective, because he talks about illicit money, but if we went, I don't know, Bitcoin versus just dollars and actually tracked it, I think the percentage would be a lot lower. You think about how many times has a dollar been through some kind of illicit activity? It's probably every single dollar multiple times. And then to throw in it, really big example, which I love using, did Bitcoin cause a bank in Mexico to redesign their whole foyer? Did it cause them to redesign their whole cash drop-off so cartels could drop big boxes of cash down into the basement so it could be sorted by this bank, which is a world-renowned bank and had one of the biggest fines ever? Would Bitcoin do that?
Imagine
No.
HSBC doing.
Oh, don't say that. I'm the same. Oh, it can't be them.
It's not related.
Yeah, it's not them. It's not them.
Even though they got charged for this anyway. Literally, there's a Netflix documentary that talks about exactly all that. But but imagine HSBC just putting a new product on, a new ETF for some random group of shares, and Gary comes on going, it's highly speculative.
Is this HSBC who didn't do their sanctions checking in South America and got fined record amounts of that? Did Bitcoin cause that? No, it didn't. Oh.
It's bizarre, isn't it? He comes on, he's obviously on what is this chart? Oh yeah, CNBC. And it's the guy that always does the interviews. And he's very good. He asks very good questions, but Gary just refuses to give any form of praise to Bitcoin. He pretty much goes,
Well,
the only reason, like there's no fundamental change in his opinion about Bitcoin. The only reason that he has approved the ETF is that the courts essentially have made him, which is interesting that because the ETF applications were largely the same as the ones that he denied. So he got asked the question, what was different? And what was different is that the rules that they were applying to the ETF, which before was based on emotion and FUD and corruption and bias, had to go. And they had to go, is this worse? And is it a valid asset compared to just about every other stock that's on the stock market? And of course the answer is yes. Of course, like
he referred to it as not a security. It's like we know it's not a security, Gary, which is why we've been saying that Ethereum is, but it's a commodity because, well, yeah, it hasn't got anyone in charge of it. But you said about he doesn't say anything good about Bitcoin, but I'm kind of like of opinion, well, he doesn't have to.
I know he should.
He just should be very objective. He shouldn't be talking negatively or positively about an asset.
Yeah. But I think like usually, this is something that obviously I remember when Gary Gensler first got put into the SEC, he was doing talks at MIT and he was bullish on Bitcoin. He was positive about the whole space. So if I was him, I remember when he first got put in power, fucking Pedro and what shitcoin did, went there and spoke to him, and they did a whole fucking podcast. I listened to it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm really excited. to get involved at the SEC. This is something that it isn't my number one priority, Bitcoin, but I'm super positive about Bitcoin. I think it could be a really good investment for people, and it's very exciting, great new technology. We really need to explore that. And I'm really looking forward to taking a fresh look at it and see why it hasn't been approved. And
I know what his objection is. It's not ESG compliant. Oh, no, it is. KPMG wrote a whole paper on it. So it can't be that.
well, weirdly, that's why we probably didn't mention that bit.
But
But over like the last 3 or 4 years that Gensler has been, head of the SEC, his position on Bitcoin completely pivoted, and he went from being quite positive to Bitcoin to go, look, because that's the thing. When I say positive, I don't mean flogging it, because you're right. He's essentially a regulator, and a regulator should just be going, is this safe for investors? Is it a scam? Yeah. And it shouldn't be, is this a good investment? That doesn't matter, right? He is not a professional investor.
does it hit the tick list of what we set out as being able to be an EFT?
Yeah. Is everything they've put in their application true?
ETF.
Yeah, because it should just be this is a company, it says it does X, and it says its revenue is Y, and it says its profit and loss, and it says its employees, and it says its products. All these things it says exist. Do they? Or is one of these very fundamental things a huge lie? And the second we put the stock on the stock market, that lie will become exposed, and the owners of that company will just dump all their shares and dump on retail. They're there to protect consumers from that type of instance. So then they're not a moral arbitrator of what is a good investment or not, which is why every single rejection of the ETF has been completely over their pay grade. They're basically going, it's not a good investment. People are going to get wrecked. And you go, why? What is the reason for that? And they've never really explained themselves. It's just a case of, we don't like it as an investment. You go, that's not for you to decide. You're just here to decide, is it a scam?
Yeah.
Is the fundamental argument in the ETF, is there anything that cannot be proven and backed up? And every single bit can be, right? The whole history of Bitcoin, all the code is there, the number of Bitcoin is there. And fundamentally, I think the courts basically came in and went, you need to disagree with these ETFs and decline them on fact and give literally data to back up your rejection. You can't just say,
well,
fuzzy, bad investment, we're not approving it. It needs to be proper, objective, not subjective.
Yeah. Does he talk about GameStop?
No.
Does he talk about Wirecard?
No. Did he talk about the banks? Did he talk about freaking anything?
Yeah.
It's bizarre for some guy that's meant to be neutral to talk this negatively. He's literally so bearish on Bitcoin here, slandering it really. Though it literally is slander when he starts talking about it's mainly used for money laundering and ransomware. That is slander against Bitcoin. If we had a CEO, we could sue him for that.
Yeah.
Time to get raised Satoshi back out.
There is no one smart enough, and equally because you're not able to be able to ultimately control it. So they can't think of a good enough reason as to how can we stop this or slow it down or how can we get on the right side of this? So therefore it's just continuing to poo-poo it until the point where they get the masses on side, or continue to try and get the masses on side. Because as that Andrew guy from Squawkbox said, when he kind of went ahead, he kind of went ahead with the approval begrudgingly. Yeah. And you could see it was through gritted teeth of, go on then, you finally twisted my arm and worn me down.
Yeah. It's a very, very bizarre. And if anything, if you want to see the bias, just that little 3-minute clip from Gary there just shows you that someone that should just be completely neutral is literally just the check and balance of things before they go to the public, which, by the way, I disagree with completely anyway. I don't think there should be a check and balance. Just shove everything there.
But if you have the check and balance, but it was catching things like, say, WorldCoin sorry, one coin or something like that, you kind of go, okay, wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
when it's kind of going, I don't like this, it shouldn't be an ETF, like you said, no facts, no nothing, and I'm being forced by the courts to do it. It kind of invalidates his job. You know, he's not protecting anyone. And I think there is an element when you've got such a complex financial system, there needs to be an element of protection to stop the scam companies, stop the scam investments. But when he's trying to tell you what you should buy because of what he likes, it's just got a bit ridiculous, hasn't it?
Yeah. And in reality, that's like, are you protecting it? Is it the courts, or was it that BlackRock put an ETF in this time? And BlackRock own you. So, I think essentially what happened here, and as we know, like the regulators are basically they're like the little attack drones of the government, and they just apply the rules as and when suits the government. So for whatever reason at the moment, and boy, as we've discussed before, an ETF for Bitcoin now is something that the powers that be have gone, we think this is a good thing now. So why BlackRock have got involved. And the second they've got involved, oh, what a surprise. The SAC bend over. And I remember when this first came out like a year ago or something, we were going, are they really going to just let the BlackRock ETF through? Are they going to be that obviously corrupt that everyone else that applied with the same ETF for the same asset, they're going to deny them and only let BlackRock through? But they didn't. They let everyone through. But for them to have to explain, like, why did you reject all these same companies multiple times before the BlackRock get through first time? It's like, are we really to expect that the coincidence is just, oh, Bitcoin's ready now for an ETF? Like, oh, is it? Or is it that BlackRock told you it's ready for an ETF? So you just went, oh, okay, sir, we've been saying no because you've been telling us to say no and coming up with bullshit answers. Now the powers that be came down and knocked on Gary's door and went, it's a yes now, let them through, son. And he has to go on TV and pretend he made a decision. Come on, Gary, we know you're a puppet. We know you didn't make a single decision. Someone from freaking BlackRock came and told you. Time for ETF approval, mate.
I bet Larry didn't even go directly to him. Larry just sent one of his T-boys.
Send us
Go on,
PA.
T-boy.
Yeah.
Fucking sort out that cunt.
Just be text him. Nah, it was
Yeah.
He emailed his PA, and his PA just forwarded the message over to him. It said, Gary, listen.
It says ETF, comma, cunt. Like, what does this mean? Like, figure it out, fucking Gary. Talking about Larry, he's next, isn't he? Larry Fink.
Yes.
Are you going to click this one?
Yes.
I believe, I believe it goes up if the world is more frightened, if people have fearful of geopolitical risk, they're fearful of their own risk. It's no different than what gold represented over thousands of years. It is a asset class that protects you.
Right.
And unlike gold, where we manufacture new gold, we're almost at the ceiling of the amount of Bitcoin that we created.
When you hear somebody like Kathy Wood,
yes,
who was on our broadcast yesterday, say
right,
that her base case is that this turns into a $600,000 a Bitcoin valuation, base case, and a million plus in a super optimistic case. Are you anywhere in her realm?
I haven't thought about it. To me, that what we are trying to do is offer an instrument that can store wealth. I think if it gets that even close to that high, gold will represent even a bigger value. And let's be clear, if you think it's digital gold, there's going to be a reference point between gold and Bitcoin.
Oh, Mr. Think. It's a little bit of a different one, isn't it? Considering that he is Gary Gensler's boss's boss. The Thinkster has started talking about how it's no different to gold, an asset class that protects you. He talked about, actually, he was asked about Cappy Wood's estimation of $600,000, but apparently Larry hasn't thought about it. However, he did say that if you think digital gold, and there is going to be a reference point between gold and Bitcoin. Really interesting point, isn't it? So what's well, actually gold, it's really hard to estimate, isn't it? Because they never actually say how much gold there is, and there's so much paper gold. So the price is quite spoofed, but I think based upon what it is in the market, what is it, 400? It mean Bitcoin be worth 400 grand or something like that if it followed the price of gold.
Yeah. It's
I
bizarre,
think it
right?
was a 12x, was it?
Oh right,
If
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
say,
Oh what? Like as in if Bitcoin was to go over the market cap of gold.
yeah,
Yeah, but if you took away all the fake paper gold, then
Oh,
I wonder what the actual price would be. But however, there's
yeah.
so much manipulation with the fact that they bring up more gold than they claim,
Mm.
but it's literally layers, and you just wouldn't know which way it would swing probably. But on the
No.
current price, yeah, we're saying about 400 grand would be the price of Bitcoin if it did tag to the same price as gold. And Larry thinks there could be some thinking in that.
Yeah. It's just bizarre, right? Because if we go back just a year, every single person at the top of it, like one of these fiat finance companies, especially literally BlackRock, right? We did a
He
whole
didn't come out.
show on these fuckers.
Yeah, but he didn't. He hasn't come out and said about Bitcoin, has he, in the last couple
No,
of
to be
years?
fair, I think he has been in the background. But every other person, like the head of every bank, the head of every regulator, the head of the European Bank, the Fed, everyone, like every like Warren Buffett, just
What you
about
saying?
everyone in this little
You're
club.
saying the head of a European bank isn't right, Christine Lagarde. She would be very honest. There's no way she would tell you that Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin wasn't good, I just don't
Even
see
though
where you're
she,
going with that.
even though she's a convicted fraudster, but yeah.
What you mean? She's a proven criminal. It's even on her Wikipedia.
And I think that was what got her the promotion.
Strange these things.
But yeah, but now we've got the CEO of BlackRock. Now it's essentially doing the opposite of what Gary's done, right? Gary's clearly being told, no, 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 you stick to the script, which is shit on Bitcoin at every opportunity. And then the BlackRock CEO, who clearly, to be fair, like had a bit of skin in the game because obviously he benefits now, doesn't he? He wants, if you're going to buy Bitcoin from me, buy the
yeah,
BlackRock ETF.
Well, this
Yeah.
is,
So
as
this
we
is the honey trap, isn't it? It's everyone's being negative about
exactly.
Bitcoin, but if you've ignored all these people that are negative, trust this one guy in the middle who's going, okay, you don't trust any of these guys, which is very worrying because you should. But if you don't, buy Bitcoin from me. I'm one of the good guys. You go, who do you work for again? BlackRock. Oh shit. No, no, no. That is the most evil company in the world, right? It's like literally is more powerful than every government put together. And you go, oh, this is where the trap's coming in, right? This is the honey trap. It's like, oh, if you think you're a bit of a contrarian investor going, oh, I think Bitcoin's got a future, but I'm disagreeing with all these old boys, all the Warren Buffetts and Jerome Powell and all that. I'll follow BlackRock. BlackRock are forging the way for this new future. Oh no, you fell in the trap. Don't buy Bitcoin from BlackRock. Out of everyone in the world, don't buy it from BlackRock. Literally every company in the world I trust more than these guys.
Yeah, this is the fear, isn't it? That it's the paper Bitcoin following the paper gold, and almost in a way the confiscation of Bitcoin is the worry that they may get the Bitcoin, may get the power. They go, oh yeah, it is now a proper asset. We're going to run with Bitcoin. And they're like, well, where's all the Bitcoin? Oh, we've got most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That the whole confiscation, which is why it's worrying in my mind that he's even that clued up to going, oh, it's like the new gold, it's gold 2.0. You just go, well, what happened? Like gold was a great asset. And as we know, it became the money of the world and the governments wanted control. So they made it illegal to hold more than an ounce of gold. And the rest
And
of the
then I
gold
think,
you owned had to be traded in with the bank. And you would get IOUs in the form of fiat money. That's when, don't worry, this is good. This is good for your gold. 1-to-1 matched. And then eventually it wasn't. They inflated beyond the gold. It
and
wasn't
then they
pegged to
went,
gold. And eventually
and then
1971 completely came off the gold standard and we went moved on to the fiat standard. This makes it much simpler. If people buy the majority of their Bitcoin in an ETF, making it then illegal to hold and own Bitcoin, they'll just go, oh, that excludes ETFs. Hold as much of your wealth in Bitcoin as you want, because don't worry, BlackRock are part of our trusted custodians, and you can hold 100% of your wealth in the BlackRock ETF if you want. That's absolutely fine, because they know you don't have it. They know you can't leave the country with
Yeah.
it. They know it's under control. They know you can't sell it. You know, it's just
Well, it's
they
like
can
And they know
oh,
you've bought it as well. So ultimately, they can probably then go and tax it as well. I do think that this is the way that they slip into the masses to then be able to take it from the masses. And it's just a ruse, and they're like 3 steps ahead.
yeah, because there's so many complicated conspiracies on this one, right? But then the simplest one is just they want to take custody off the plebs and give it to
Yeah.
the corporations, right? And which corporation do the powers that be trust the most? Of course, as we know, it's BlackRock. We did a whole show on them. They own
I'm a,
everything.
I'm
So
a
if they
I'm a
also then own Bitcoin, it works perfectly, doesn't it? It works perfectly.
but the beauty is they haven't even got to buy it with their own money.
And I know it's almost just sad at how good they've played this, right? Like all these ETFs got just got rejected all the way through the last 10 years. And then finally BlackRock come in, they all get approved. And then as we saw on the volumes for which ETFs people were buying, right? Of the 2 billion, BlackRock saw 1 billion of it. So, you know, and Fidelity saw 700 million. And you go, oh, Jesus. So basically over half already of the volume is going straight into BlackRock, and the others are just fighting over the scraps.
Yeah.
They just wait. They wanted to wait until that they would know. They knew the ETF had to be approved eventually. They just wanted to have one of their main players playing. The only thing that surprised me actually is that Vanguard are doing the exact opposite to what BlackRock are doing. Because we know BlackRock and Vanguard are pretty much the same company, right? They nearly, if you ever see BlackRock listed as 10% ownership of a company, scroll one down and Vanguard will be there also owning 10% of that company. These two companies own 10% of every company. But the Vanguard CEO is still being very vocal and very anti-Bitcoin, saying he is never going to open up a Vanguard ETF on Bitcoin because they respect their investors, they respect their customers, and they would never offer them a product that doesn't give them good returns. Clearly, passively aggressively shitting on Bitcoin, saying not going to give good returns, it's a scam asset. Da, da, da. So it's
I'll be
very
honest.
interesting that they've kind of gone, BlackRock, you got to go forward, you take the heat, you're putting the product out. Vanguard, you sit back, continue to shit on it, you fall in line with everyone else. Because really, if they wanted to completely wrap up this entire space, right, put BlackRock and Vanguard out there, they would absorb probably 80% of the volume. You really would have a captured audience there. But by having Vanguard sitting out, it's an interesting play.
But however, like getting into ETFs, like ETFs and not managed funds, what they called the funds with low prices, it actually is a Vanguard play, though, isn't it? So whilst you've got BlackRock, the big player, Vanguard is the one which is renowned for the ETFs.
Yeah.
So maybe that is the one which would maybe attract the most publicity if it was to go in.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there is still a little bit of friction to buy
Do we
BlackRock
know?
compared to
Yeah. Do we
Vanguard.
know
Vanguard
why
is
they
known
held?
as the ETF king, yeah.
Do we know why they held back?
I don't know, because it's not even like it's
Yeah, well, their CEO's come out and said Bitcoin is not a safe asset. It's a scam, basically.
Yeah, but he's just a CEO. He isn't like the owner. It's not Jack Bogle, anymore.
He's just
So
the CEO.
yeah, but they'll replace him in time when they want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying like he's got any power. I'm sure he's a puppet as well, just as Larry Fink is most probably. But that the company have come out with a reason as to why they haven't offered a product, and they basically said the same as what Gary has said. Really, they're following the mainstream media's view of Bitcoin, which is it's a scam, it's highly volatile, it's largely used for money laundering. Why would we expose our customer base with an asset like that?
I just reckon in a couple of years' time, I go, oh no, we're going for a younger direction. We changed our CEO. Here's your Bitcoin ETF. Here's one with Doggy Coin and whatever else in it. I predict it will happen when they want to actually go in and wipe the market.
I don't know if they'll ever go down the shitcoin route.
Oh, I think they all will, but that's just another way of taxing. So it's just like get more money out of crypto. They won't really care. They'll buy it for, because it's so volatile with things like Dogecoin. But a bit of bad news or whatever they can get for super low prices, then build it up, sell it to people. I just, yeah.
The problem is the problem with shitcoins, right, and putting it into an ETF. There's no money in that for the funds. Those shitcoins are for the degens, right? They buy them, they sell
The
them.
lottery tickets, aren't they?
Yeah, and like it's just flavor of the month, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and it's one of them. Why Binance did so well is because they listed every shitcoin that was out there. Literally, you could just list it. Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, they actually had some due diligence and wanted to actually go, is this a scam coin before putting it live? With Binance just went, we don't care. It just shoved everything out there. So they made a shit ton of money by trading on these shitcoins that, come up as an idea on Twitter today, and someone then just codes it in the night and throws it out tomorrow, and suddenly 100 million worth of volume just flies in because it just goes viral for whatever reason. And then 2 weeks later, it's dead, right? That whole dynamic of shitcoins, it's very quick. It happens because it went viral. Once you put that into we have this shitcoin that it has to be established for at least a year or two, right? And then you have to apply for an ETF as they get approved. Every buyer has to be KYC'd and AML'd. Like the amount of friction in this, and then you're supposed to buy it and then put a shitcoin into your pension. Like really, it doesn't, like the whole market dynamics don't work. Like you need to be pretty stupid to be buying one of these, right? And so you need to get people in the viral network effect of Twitter. People are like, oh, this coin's going to the moon. Bro, I've made like 5x over the last 3 days. And someone's like, what coin is it? What coin is it? Oh, it's ABC. And you're okay, where can I buy it? Binance. You're like, great, let's drop my 5K into that coin. You get wrecked and you're like, oh, fuck. And it's like, if that was an ETF, it was just so much slower.
Yeah, but it's just taking people's money. It's basically putting together a gambling fund. So it's positioning as a gambling company. So an example will be, Bitcoin's now £200,000 per Bitcoin. Maybe I've missed it. Oh, but number 2 on the chart is Ethereum. It's only £3,000. That's got room to go up £197,000. Bam, there's your next ETF.
How I think. Yeah,
and it's exactly the same in ETFs, not just degens.
Yeah, so Ethereum and stuff probably is the exception. Once you go down the longer tail though with shitcoins, it's like I don't think it works. But actually, it's interesting you just mentioned that. Then unit bias is one of the things that has stopped Bitcoin from like really like big adoption still, because people really want a whole coin, right? Whenever they want to buy, they're like, oh, I want a whole Bitcoin at least. How much is one? And they go, oh, it is, how much is it right now? 34 grand. They go, I haven't got 34 grand lying around. The ETFs, the way they've priced it, and they've dropped all the zeros off. So to buy one ETF of Bitcoin, it's 34. Or it's probably more in dollars. So it's like whatever the equivalent is. Once that ticks over, it'd be like, I don't know, 44, something like that. So they've just gone, oh, it's 44. So I thought that was good, because now suddenly when you're buying your ETF, you're like, oh, how many ETFs can I buy, of this Bitcoin thing? And you go, oh, I've got £1,000 put in, say, oh, it's 44 per one. Oh, great. I can buy what's that like, 2,000 or something of those. That feels good. Whereas if I was going in and it's like, oh, the price is 34,000 or 44,000, and I've only got 1,000 to put in, oh, I can buy like 0.01 of an ETF of that. Like that feels bad. But you feel nice going, oh, I've got 2,000 ETF shares of that. It throws a unit bias the other way.
I think that's probably why people have looked into ETH as well, ultimately, because it is easier. And equally, it's like, well, it's got the difference between, I don't know, what is it, just under 2K to 34K. Even if it got to, half of that, which is 17, then they're like, oh, great, I've 7x my money. So I think that's why people have lumped into that more so.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
weird.
number two.
I've seen some tweets on Twitter recently where someone was like they've been shilling Bitcoin for ages, and then they got asked like, "Oh, you buy more Bitcoin?" And like, "Oh, not at the moment. Don't have the funds." It's like, what do you mean? You haven't got the funds. You're doing well. Like, yeah, but I haven't got 34K lying around.
Mm.
And you just go, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin each time, Like what? And this person who'd been shilling Bitcoin for a number of years thought you had to buy a whole Bitcoin each time. You go, dude, you could just buy fractions of a Bitcoin. Like, this is still bizarrely one of the barriers of entry, which is
I was going to say, yeah,
buying a
I think
fraction of a
people,
Bitcoin is a thing.
yeah, I think people still find that hard to get their heads around, like a fraction, like
Yeah.
how does that work? And why would I only buy a fraction? I want the whole thing. If I'm going to go in, I've missed the boat. Yeah, I just don't think that people get that part. And it's very difficult.
Yeah. I think even the people that get it, and I think we're all the same, right? We all
Yeah,
wanted to get at least
you
one.
want a whole number. Yeah,
You wanted one, didn't you? Like, it's just to go out. And then once you get one, you're like, oh, if I've got 1.1 or 1.2, you go, okay, I'm okay stacking from here. But I think it is hard to stack when you go, oh, how much Bitcoin have you got? Oh, like 0.01. But I'm going to stack 0.02 tomorrow. And eventually I get to one, right? And you go, that is the way to do it right now. Okay. It's just, and eventually, like, when the price 10x is from here, it's going to be even tougher. Like the idea of being a whole coiner is just going to be completely gone, right? It's going to be the
yeah,
equivalent of the price of your house sat in savings, which most people, that's a complete fantasy, right? This is the 0.1% of people have the price of their house just sat in savings, and that'll be every whole coiner that is a Bitcoiner. That will be them. They will have the price of a house that's stacked, sat in their savings. But yeah, it's tough. It's still because I think we're still in that place where it's kind of possible if you really, really stretch. Like, it's not completely out of reach. We needed the 10x again, and then you're like, right, now it's just a case of how much fiat have you got? Get it out. Get it out of fiat, get it into Bitcoin, and then just watch the appreciation. Just it's weird, isn't it? Like, if you're buying shares in Apple or Tesla or whatever, no one really cares how many shares they've got. You just go, oh, I want to get my 10 grand into Tesla because I think Tesla's going to double this year. So you go, I'm going to double
yeah,
my 10 grand to 20. No one goes, how many shares did you get? Because no one cares, right?
yeah.
Whereas in Bitcoin, you go, well, put your 10 grand into Bitcoin and that will double this year. Now you got 20 grand, right? That's good. Oh, but for some reason, how much Bitcoin do I get for the 10 grand? You go, well, actually, you only get like 0.25 Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh, that's not enough. I want at least one. Like, why? Your
Is
10s
it
going
because
to
of the
20.
name? Like in terms of the Bitcoin, like because I've only got a bit off the coin, therefore I want like even down to the intrinsic, like when we think about it, I think it's even things like that that make people think I'm never going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of you. And unfortunately, I literally succumb to the same thing now. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I start whenever I'm stacking, and there's always a whole number that I'm trying to get to.
yeah,
And I get there, then I kind of ease off again for a bit. I'll really go fucking hell for leather, going, I really want to round that up. And
So
then I'll ease off. And it's like, there's no reason to get to it's just for my own freaking OCD, really, to go, oh,
yeah.
it's that's nice. It's like, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. But yeah,
So what you're saying is you're getting quite close to the million mark.
million BTC, baby. I wish. Anyway, the next story is a shocking one, man. Have you guys read this one? This the one on Stripe.
It's not Stripe.
What do you mean?
It's Strike, isn't it?
Strike,
It's
Stripe
Stripe.
Oh,
Yeah,
application.
Stripe, not Strike.
Oh, Stripe. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who's Stripe then?
Stripes are
Stripe
payments.
yeah.
Oh, those guys. Oh, so
Yeah.
it isn't Jack Malice's company.
Yeah,
No,
so
no.
it's literally like
Oh
a
my
PayPal
God.
kind of
Oh God.
company. So I saw you commenting it, and I replied to you.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I thought we'll leave it in just to chat about it. But whilst it's not as severe as a strike, because obviously it's a Bitcoin orientated company, it's still a payments company who are saying you can't have a business through us where people buy Bitcoin miners. And I'm kind of going, how is this? And they say it's against our T's and C's. So you're kind of going, how
Really?
is
Like
it against your T's and C's?
you foresaw to put crypto or Bitcoin in your T's and C's
But it's
prior to this.
but it's miners. So it's also you're not allowed to buy a computer or sell computers through us as a merchant. It's just a really, really odd clause. And obviously I'm not going to go through Stripe's T's and C's to find out what the hell they're saying. But it just makes no sense.
It obviously it won't list Bitcoin mining in there, I can guarantee. It'll just be some they'll because the thing is like if they were really being honest, they'll go, oh, it's this clause in our T's and C's, 13.2, you're infringing that.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, great, I can go and have a look at 13.2. But instead they just go, oh, it's just somewhere in there, you're infringing it. And you go, well, where? Where?
I just love to know what it is, though.
I know. And I can get it'll probably be something be about the fact that there's a very this is the thing that I came across on the App Store and on the Google App Store, which is that when you accept money and then give money out, you have to be very sure of where the money came from on both sides. They want KYC and AML on both sides of the transaction. And when I was giving out money in Bitcoin lessons, they knew I wasn't KYCing on that end. I was KYC'd because obviously I was the developer of the app, but I was not KYCing who I was giving it to. So they hated that and they banned it, right? So they refused that I could give out and sat. So instead I had to change it just to points and then just leave a little link to a website to go, don't worry, your points are redeemable to sats. Just send us a DM on Twitter and we'll send you your sats. So we got around it that way by not being able to do it in the app. It wasn't as succinct, it wasn't as slick. We had to add friction, but it was friction to get around the system. In this instance, I'd imagine it's the same thing because they are essentially Stripe need to know where the money is coming from that they then process through. And they can't verify where the money's coming from because it's coming from a mining company and they mine from the Bitcoin network. So where did that money come from? It's essentially just, it's completely KYC AML free money because that's why it's beautiful. It's virgin Bitcoin. It comes from the network. And then they start sending it out. And somewhere in there, in the Stripe T's and C's will be, we need to know where all your money comes from. And they don't.
But it's hardware. So it's people who are just using fiat for a computer.
Yeah.
It's not Bitcoin. And that's why I'm just like, this is just a bit fucking odd.
Oh, of
because
course.
This person's set up as a merchant through Stripe. Like you said, there's going to be some clause, but I'd just love to know what it is. And I saw something which I probably should have watched on Twitter, which was Andreas on Joe Rogan. He talks about how what is it? There's always a layer in payments now, so it's very centralized, and it's kind of like to that point, people, because we've got this layer, people are able to do it, which is one of the advantages of Bitcoin. So if you let's play the kind of like the card. Oh, what about Ethereum? Why can't we use that? Because there's a CEO or rather founder of Ethereum, and there's control around the network. Whereas we want a situation where we're able to trade online and no one can reject your payment. So I want to buy a Bitcoin miner. It's through Bitcoin. I just go, here's my Bitcoin address. Here's the contract. Sign it. Bump. Transfer it. I can get my Bitcoin miner. Whereas this is you're allowing a company to go, no. And it's like nothing illicit. It's just like I want a way of I suppose creating a business as such by mining Bitcoin. I just feel that it's just you know, I need to find that video so I can share it, because I think it's one worth actually putting on the pod. But I think it does speak volumes in that he's been blocked. And it's the same with, you know, like, who is it? HSBC, Barclays, and whoever else, just blocking people's cards because they've been buying Bitcoin. And they're like, oh, we don't know why it's been blocked.
Yeah, well, I've got banned from Coinbase, right? For when I bought a house. Yeah. Because I think he even says, I think the same thing in his replies. It's like there's quite a large transactions have gone through his account at a certain point, and they've just gone, what's going on here? And he's gone, oh, I'm running a Bitcoin mining company. It's fine. And they've gone, yeah, no, that's no. And this is why I say, like, the regulators and like people like Gary Gensler at the SEC, they are the attack dogs of the powers that be, because unfortunately the rules and the regulations are so powerful, right? And if they infringe them, they'll get huge fines, potential prison time. So what it does is it forces all these companies because I don't necessarily think Stripe is a bad company. They're just protecting their own interests. And at the moment, the regulators are saying pretty much anything Bitcoin related, they're putting into high risk of fraud, very high liability. And it looks like they're almost, because they never say these things black and white, they're alluding to the fact that Bitcoin mining or anything probably Bitcoin related shouldn't really be supported. They're probably alluding to that. So Stripe have just, their risk profile and their compliance team have gone, we don't want certain Bitcoin companies to be part of the Stripe network, right? Because obviously Stripe is such a huge company now. There's so many companies using them. They've just gone, for the amount of Bitcoin companies there are, the amount of money we're going to make potentially against the fine we will get if anything goes wrong, it just makes sense to say no to all of them and dodge the fine. So that is the business decision that Stripe are making. Just deny all Bitcoin companies and avoid the billions and billions worth of fines and potential prison time that could come. And this is how it's the best form of attack, which is just this. You make up laws that never got passed as laws. You slip them in through the side as regulation. And regulation then becomes law because it could be prosecuted to the point of fines and prison time. But it's not a law. It's just regulation. It's only guidance. But here we are seeing it in the wild yet again. We saw the stupid questionnaires and people being limited on how much Bitcoin they can buy based on the guidance of regulation last week on some individual pleb being banned from Coinbase and how much they can buy. And this week we see a small little like BitSaga, shout out to them. I've never heard of them before until this, but here they are trying to just set up a business, run through Stripe. They've got a great product. It makes it super easy to accept and receive payments. And they're being banned from Stripe because they're a Bitcoin company. This is the power of regulation. It builds a moat. It's a safety layer around the existing companies that have already passed all this regulation. So essentially what we're talking about here is the banking system, right? The banking system is approved, it's in, it's all kind of grandfathered in. They can pay for any amount of compliance, any amount of regulation because they're so rich, right? All the little Bitcoin companies are coming up. They're trying to compete against these big banks and they're being stopped at the first hurdle to just go, can I just have a payment processor, please? Just so I can sell miners? And Stripe are going, no, we won't even be the payment processor. They're not even a proper business partner. They're not doing anything. They're just literally putting the channel to let fiat transfer from the customer to BitSaga. And they're like, nope, we don't even want to be involved in that. And you go,
is it also the classic case where they can't collect tax on the other person as well from selling
yeah, they can. Because part of using Stripe and stuff, like, it's all audited.
Yeah.
So
True.
BitSaga aren't going to be
They have
like
to have
a rogue
they have to be
company. They're going
they have to be set up. They have to pay
taxes.
taxes. All the details are passed on to. Looks like a Belgian company, so it's all lined up.
Like you say, then it's just putting more red tape and barriers in the face of Bitcoin. It reminds me, of course, of obviously when they were trying to do the same with the OnlyFans as well, making money through illicit activities. And, ultimately, if they want to strip, then let them strip. But Stripe were told that they couldn't, and therefore take payment that way as well.
Yeah, it is
But
bizarre how
continues to
the
make,
banks like pawn and Bitcoin
yeah,
seem to be like, oh, we don't want to do anything to do with that. And you go, why? Like, you literally, the banks fund all the terrorism in the world. Like, oh, God.
yeah,
Gambling, drugs, alcohol abuse, you name it. Legal drugs in America, so all the painkillers.
When has a bank ever blocked a transaction from a bank to Paddy Power? Fucking never. That's when.
yeah.
At 2 a.m. when they're wasted and like about to bet on some virtual horse racing and put their last £1,000 on number 4, Does that transaction get blocked? No, they're more than happy to let that one go through. But
Yeah.
oh, you're trying to buy a Bitcoin miner from BitSaga? Need to block that. You clearly haven't thought it through. I was like, I can guarantee anyone that buys a Bitcoin miner has thought about that so much. Like, because I have thought about it for about 6 years and I still haven't pressed the button and I really want to. Like, Jesus Christ.
I was gonna
No
say,
one buys a Bitcoin miner on a whim. Like, they really need to know what they're doing.
You've got a barn which could be full of miners.
I know. I have some stables that need heating as well. It's fucking -3 out there at the moment. I've got a little
it's
fucking
freezing.
I've got a little heater out there fucking heating that thing. I'm like, why am I doing this? I could have like 3 or 4 Bitcoin miners fucking whirring away, heating this pump room that stops my pipe from freezing. So
We've just
yeah,
got him to convince himself to buy a miner or two.
I would love a couple of miners. It's the only thing that scares me is just knowing how to program them, how to configure them to actually mine the Bitcoin. Like it's still
Yeah.
It's probably just a mental block that if I just went through the
I was going to
process.
say, because ultimately they are set up to only do one thing, aren't they? But then, like you say, yeah, the setup of, okay, how do I then get from said miner to my account?
Yeah, and plug it into the right pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you do have to set them up. Like you can set them up at different speeds and configurability. You have to check the temperature of them. Like it's
I still have it with the Jade ledger, the mental block on the Jade ledger.
yeah.
Got to for 10%. You said it's 2 hours. I'm like, no, that's too long.
Yeah, it takes you 2 months to build yourself up to 2 hours.
You have to sit there, you have to set it up, you have to test it, you then have to punch all the letters in, and then you have to double check the letters as well, test that, and then you kind of like go, then you have to double check it again because you're not sure.
Yeah, I'm tired already. Yeah, just thinking about it.
And the problem is with a miner as well. I think it's the difference in price as well. Like with a new hardware wallet, a couple of £100, right, max. That's for a couple of them. Straight away with a miner, you're talking thousands now. So if you're going to start up a little mining enterprise, you're talking 5, 10, 15 grand, and you're just going, what if I can't get this set up? What if it literally just, even though I have 15 grand worth of Bitcoin miners that could mine my Bitcoin and easy payback, over the next couple of years. But what if I can't configure it? What if I never mine a single sat? I've just set fire to 15 grand. That's my mental block. It's, do I know what I'm doing? And I don't know. I probably should just bite the bullet and do it, but Jesus, money's been flying out fucking with new house, wedding, kids. Just like at the moment, like Jesus Christ, I've just set fire to 15 grand of Bitcoin miners as well. I'm like, I don't want to go back to Fiat land and fucking get a real job. So. I need to be a bit smart. And I'm probably being stupid by not doing it. If I just bit the bullet years ago and spent that 15 grand on miners and just fucking had them running, they'd probably be paid for themselves multiple times over by now. And anyway,
right.
last story of the week.
Yep.
do we need a bit of background about this guy? Because he's someone who I came across in the Bitcoin space, but I don't think I've been around long enough. But he seems a bit of a moron. And I never really truly understood him because I was like, why is this idiot got so many followers? And people invite him on panels for Bitcoin. I'm like, why are they inviting this moron on? There is a video as well. So how long is it? Is it a clickable one?
It's 2 minutes. Go on, I'll add it.
You know what? Bitcoin started going down. It was around like 32,000. I'm like, I believe in Bitcoin. I'm starting to read up, know more about Bitcoin. I'm on the Bitcoin panel. I'm diamond hands. I'm going to buy 1.2 million of Bitcoin. I'm never going to sell it. I'm going to hold on to it forever. I do it on Gemini because I still have the Gemini set up from the Winklevosses because that's their platform. That's their exchange from when they came to my house in the Hamptons. Enter SPF, that fucking Looney Tune fuck. And what, FTX goes bankrupt, guy's a fraud, and he crashes. All, people losing their Bitcoin, and everyone's emailing me being like, Gemini's next, the Winklevosses are next. Well, I start getting scared. So I go into my account and I just test it. Can I still cash out a little if I had to? I can, no problems. Kudos to the Winklevosses, their platform exchange held up. So I leave it in there because I'm diamond hands. And now there's all this buzz about Bitcoin again. I'm wearing the shirt. You got the ETFs launching today. I'm like, let me go into my account and see where I'm at because I know it's at 42. I bought it at 32,000, $1 million. It went down to 20. That's where I got nervous because of exchanges crashing. I didn't want to get my money caught. I'm a fucking idiot. What I did is I transferred all my Bitcoin into cash. I didn't take it out. I was just leaving it in there. I thought it was in Bitcoin. No, I turned it all into cash. So, and this is at 20. So I have 400 grand in an account. I put 1.1, 1.2 million into. And I haven't gotten any of the wave back up to 43, brother. Everything I do with Bitcoin, I get fucked in my baby blue eyeballs. What am I supposed to do now? Buy it at 44? I bought it at 32. I fucking cashed out at 20 by accident. And I didn't mean to cash out. I wouldn't have left the money just sitting there like a fucking dick face. I cannot win with Bitcoin. Somebody owes me Bitcoin.
Yeah, so what's the background on Dave Portnoy? So he owns a bar or something like that. He's quite rich individual.
He doesn't own a bar. So
What's he own?
he owns Barstool Sports.
Oh.
So it started off literally as a sports newspaper probably 15 years ago now, literally pre-internet, where he used to be the sole writer, used to just write about sports. And then those little everyone's been to New York now, right? So the newspaper stands where you put your 50 cents in or something and it opens, you get a newspaper out. He used to put his Barstool Sports in there, and then it kind of started taking off. He's got his readership, and then the internet came out. So he went, I wonder if I can convert Barstool Sports, the newspaper, into an online product. And so he created a website, started blogging. And it all just took off. And now, obviously, he's completely evolved the business to be YouTube videos, TikToks, all around the same thing, right? It's American sports. That's what he does. And he's the CEO of it. He actually recently sold the company, a couple of years ago, for something like $500 million.
If I'm right in thinking, they also partnered with a gambling company as well. Because there was this really hot woman called Ava Fayor, and she used to be the commentator for it. So she was massively into sports herself. And she was just like, yeah, if you're going to bet and gamble, use Barstool Sports. So yeah, I do remember it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he got acquired. And then Dave started talking out against the main narrative of the world. So they basically got banned. Their gambling license, a big reason they got acquired was to take Barstool Sports. They didn't do gambling before. They used to talk about gambling, but they weren't a gambling company. So they got acquired to make them into a gambling company. they started trying to roll out over various states in America. But because Dave had spoken out against the government narrative, they were getting all their gambling licenses rejected. So the company that acquired them basically went, Dave, we want to be a gambling company. We thought Barstool Sports were going to be the brand, but you are a problem. So we'll sell you Barstool Sports back for $1. We paid you $500 million before. You buy it back for $1, fuck off, and we'll carry on. So Dave recently bought back Barstool Sports for $1, and he now is the main owner of it. So he's running off. But his Bitcoin journey is nuts, right? And he obviously just explained it in the 2-minute video largely, but I guess quickly run through it. It's he's been following Bitcoin for fucking ages, and he's been saying, no, I don't understand Bitcoin. I don't get it. I'm not buying Bitcoin, right? And then he managed to get the Winklevoss twins to go and talk to him about Bitcoin. And for whatever reason, they started talking about gold asteroids and that Elon's going to land these asteroids and mine them. So therefore, gold isn't valuable anymore. Gold's infinite. So Bitcoin is infinitely more valuable than gold. And Dave's obviously sat there going, what are you talking about? Right? Because they've completely missed all the steps of let's just talk about the history of money. Right?
Yeah.
That they've skipped straight to why is Bitcoin better than gold? And I think Dave's just going, I don't think gold's valuable, really. Like, how much money is Dave got in gold other than probably some jewelry for his missus? Like none, right? He's got all his money in his business and various stocks and his properties. He doesn't value gold. So telling him that Bitcoin's better than gold means nothing, right? So he bought some Bitcoin back, I think when it was 11 or 14,000. I think it was 11,000. And bought it when the Winklevoss twins told him to. Then the price just fluctuated a little bit and he just dumps it all. But then years and years go by. He ends up getting invited. I think it was Bitcoin 2022 or 2023. It was one of those. And he listens to a number of talks and he realizes, oh shit, he actually listens to some proper speakers in Bitcoin, not the Winklevoss twins who fucking showed themselves up. They both went around his house. I watched the vlog of him when the Winklevoss twins came around, and they were trying to be cool and stuff, just don't try and be cool around just because you're around Dave Portnoy, he's got his cameras out and stuff like that. Just be normal people that educate him on Bitcoin from the foundation level, right? He clearly doesn't know anything about money, anything about Bitcoin. Start from zero and work up. And if he wants to buy, let him buy. Don't just start talking about gold asteroids. Anyway, so he goes to a Bitcoin conference, listens to proper Bitcoiners and goes, holy shit, I'm going to buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin. So he basically buys 30 Bitcoin, pretty much then and there, buys it on Gemini. But then the FTX scandal comes out, SPF fucking going to prison, all that kind of stuff. He shits himself. He's getting texts from all his mates going, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to zero, FTX is going down, Gemini's going down next. So he says, which I'm not sure, I believe, is he reckons he just wants to sell a little bit of Bitcoin just to test that, can I sell some? Is this exchange even working? So he reckons he sells a little bit of his Bitcoin just to test it at 20K and goes, oh, it works. So I'll leave it. And then Bitcoin bounces back and then he logs back into his account once it's bounced back and it's at 45K. The ETF's approved. And he has a look. And he's gone, oh shit. I cashed everything out at 20K, which the plebs have evaluated and go, you didn't cash out at 20K, Dave. You cashed out at 16K. Because we have the numbers. So instead of him having $1 million, and he should have nearly $2 million now, right? Because he roughly brought in at about 20K. Well, actually, no, about 30K or something. And then the price had gone to 45. So he should have $1.5 million to 1.8 type million in his account. Instead, he has 400K. He sold everything at 16K. That's the story of Dave Portnoy in Bitcoin.
Even more disturbing, I was looking through his wiki page and it says in his personal life, a sex tape reportedly was leaked in December 2019.
Yeah, this
Let's
is why they try to
beautify
cancel him.
this.
Yeah.
Sorry?
This is so. Basically, Dave was talking out. Right. So imagine, who was it? Russell Brand. Um, you've got, I don't know, Alex Jones, all these guys. You've got who's it? Ed Snowden. Who's the guy that's in the British Embassy right now?
Oh, Julian Assange.
Julian
Yeah.
Assange. A lot of them. So Dave Portnoy is one of them, right? So he's been very open. He's very fucking. He's been single for most of his 20s and 30s, shagged about. It's all very public, right? So once he started talking out against the establishment, Business Insider, who guess what? Business Insider seemed to be the main attack dog when they want to reveal these types of things, other than the BBC. So it reminds me very much of a Russell Brand thing. So Russell Brand also started talking out against the establishment. What did they do? Well, this guy has been openly single and promiscuous for a number of years. So what Dave, I remember, obviously I listened to a lot of Dave Portnoy content. I actually like him as a business owner. He's a lot of no nonsense. He doesn't get Bitcoin at all, but I don't care about that. He's a very good business guy. So he was talking about this, that Business Insider was DMing all his exes, asking them, do you have anything to say? And essentially they managed to find one ex that he slept with, and then the next day they fell out and she left under a bit of a cloud and she had some bad things to say. And he just went, fine, she's got something bad to say, but what evidence, like da da da, and he spoke out about it all. And it was just like and Business Insider did the classic thing of, we've written a whole article against you, accusing you of rape, sexual assault. It's 5 p.m. on a Friday. This goes live at 7. What comment do you have? So he obviously goes live straight away at Barstool going, this is bollocks. I've got text messages. Here's the girl that supposedly has accused me of rape. Here's our text message conversation after we'd had sex. Here, the couple of days later, she's going, when do you want to meet up? Da, da, da. Clearly showing that it wasn't reciprocated from his side, but she was trying to meet up again. Would you do that with someone that had raped you? Da, 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 da. So all these rape charges were never proven. There's not a single police report. Nothing formal had been done, but the scandal got done on him. And so essentially he managed to buy his own company back for $1 because they tried to cancel him, it didn't work. But the gambling commissions would not give him any licenses, and they all back it back on, oh, he's a misogynist and he's a rapist. You go, well, is he? Because he's not convicted of any of these things. This is just the powers that be trying to slander someone that is not playing the game.
Really, really interesting point, because we've got Russell Brand, who you mentioned. Has he been charged for anything?
No,
the damage is done.
We're now about 6 months later as well, aren't we?
Yeah, of course.
But his YouTube channel is still demonetized.
Yeah.
So they've taken away probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands worth of ad revenue from Russell Brand because of a BBC documentary where some girls claim some things. Nothing has been officially filed. Nothing has been prosecuted. And even if any charges have been brought, it still doesn't matter. Has he been convicted? No. Even charges, even a police report would be a big step forward, but it's still, that means nothing, right? If anyone gets a police report or charged with rape, that still is like, okay, they've been charged. That means there's significant evidence that suggests that is real. But have they been convicted? Only once they are convicted should punishment come. Both Dave Portnoy and Russell Brand, they haven't even gone past step 1 of an actual police report being filed. They're just in the state of rumor and gossip. And it's like, oh, guess what? Both of these guys were outspoken, talking bollocks about the financial system, the corruption of it, and their governments and how they were leading the COVID response. That is what And then suddenly, Business Insider suddenly starts texting and DMing all day Portnoy's exes to find a bit of dirt. A couple go, yeah, he's a bit rough during sex once. Could that be sexual assault? Yeah, probably could be. Great, that's a rape charge. We're going with it.
Yeah.
Write an entire article based on that. So yeah, that's that, and obviously it doesn't surprise me that when you Google him, first thing that comes up is sexual assault charges. Yeah, because that's what they want you to think about him.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was a sex video, but yeah, lovely.
Oh yeah, the sex video is funny.
I was going to say it's not a video which I'd like to watch.
It is a funny one.
It's not a great image to go to sleep on, I'm
I
sure.
was going to say it's not going to be like the one which I want to watch, like SBF. What's her name?
You're still hanging out for that, aren't
Yeah,
you?
but the Holy Grail.
That's what you sent through, right? I reckon before we end, that you sent through the link from BitSaga. They have a bit heater light, 349 euros. Looks freaking ace.
Yeah, I was looking at it kind of going, surely this doesn't get much Bitcoin, but it, yeah, I don't really understand it all.
It seems yeah, custom built.
It
to your
seems far too
preferences.
cheap. I'm guessing that it's not very high powered, and obviously, if you're in on a pool, you probably won't get that much contribution for it. 'Cause you're not really offering much. But I think it's just for you, if you had like 5 of those whacked into the stables, maybe that would be a way to handle it.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. And like this is, yeah, because normally they're thousands. You even
But I
got like a
suppose,
proper bit heater tower, like pre-order,
yeah,
basically
maybe.
500 euros. This is almost for like your home and
So I'm guessing you'd have to look at the hash rate of the heaters versus a typical miner. So I don't know who an example of a typical miner and work out how effective they'd actually be.
yeah. But the thing is, like they're so cheap at this. But yeah, because like a normal miner, it needs to basically pump out about a tenth of the hash rate that a normal miner would, and then that's fine because it's 10th of the price. Yeah, I could buy 10 of these for the price of one.
You'd have a really cozy stables.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that it even says that these are because the biggest problem, right, or reason why I have to put it in outbuildings is that the fans are so loud.
Yeah.
They're saying this is larger fans, so they have silent operation. It says silent. That's a big claim. 'Cause that means you could technically do that indoors. 'Cause that starts to mean, can I heat a room indoors with this? That would be cool.
I think we're going to get
Because in my
product
mind,
review
it's
on it.
always there's a buzzing, right? There's a fucking. It sounds like there's a whole bee
So
nest.
by the sounds of this, we're actually going to get a product review. So we've had limited product reviews on Displate, on Jade, on Ledger, and what on earth that Bitcoin clock is. But we might actually get a heater in. That'd be quite a good
Nice.
review.
Yeah, it'd be a nice upside that the fact that BitSaga get blocked from Stripe and instead they just end up getting a load of Bitcoin miner sales.
Yeah,
That's
I'm guessing
instead.
he's got a different payments platform now. I suppose it's one to actually message him about to check.
Yeah, they've got a website and they're accepting money somehow. So
The challenge is as well, of course, is that there's not many payment platforms, is there? So once you're pretty much blocked from the big boys like Stripe, it becomes difficult. Stripe, PayPal, Adyen, I think there's another one, but there's not
that's
many.
why I'd happily pay in Bitcoin. I'd be fine.
Yeah.
If anything, it's easier for me to pay in Bitcoin. It's the problem about being all in. Like if I wanted to make a purchase like this, I have to sell Bitcoin to then get the fiat to buy this.
Yeah.
Whereas if he just went, just send me the Bitcoin, I'm like, sweet. Yeah. Because I don't have to pay all the fees to sell the Bitcoin and then get into fiat, wait a bit of time and
Had the other half lived up to even 10%.
Illicit activity.
but that's the way around this, right? This is
Yeah. Lightning all day long.
and it's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. It's a good note to end on, really, because it's if Stripe can ban this all they want, but if BitSaga ever just want to go Bitcoin only and just sell to Bitcoiners, there's nothing that the regulators, the laws can do to stop me sending BitSaga some sats for their miners. They don't control that network. They can't ban me from the network. No one can ban me or BitSaga from the Bitcoin network. They give me an address,
Absolutely.
I can send them some sats. Once they're received, they can send me some miners. No approval needed.
Ultimately, it's the fundamentals of Bitcoin,
It's just
peer-to-peer.
a transaction between two people. Let it happen. Let it happen. If they don't send me the miners or whatever, then I'll tell others that they're a scam and they won't receive any more money, right? Let the market do its market thing. We don't need regulators sitting in the middle going, oh no, we need to protect the consumer. Like, fuck off. We know you're not protecting the consumer. You're just playing into biases and playing like, you know, favorites and like choosing when to apply your rules and when not to. And you've chosen to apply your rules on this Bitcoin company and it's bollocks. And the beautiful thing is, I really want to like support BitSaga now. So I'll DM him and go, can I just pay in Bitcoin? Like, fuck the payment networks. I'll send you some sats. And then I want some miners. I want to figure it out.
There we have it. Perfect. Right. Well, Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and no Mrs. No Show. Surprise, surprise. 127 parts in, and still no show. Peace.